let's move on to Alpine, because Alpine they're an interesting outfit. A few years ago, they seemed to be on the rise. They were, I think they finished fifth in the points. They were aiming to get into the top four. They really wanted to be a player. And of course, part of the issue that they've had is their corporate overlords at Renault. They've wanted to run this team like it's part of the corporation. You can't run a race team that way. They've now abandoned the Renault power unit. There are rumors about a potential sale or Christian Horner coming in or. But we're talking about a team now with a Mercedes power unit and two pretty competent drivers, it seems like. Should Alpine fans and people working there be positive about this season?
I think they should be positive. First of all, Tim, is Adam our corporate overlord in this situation? That's the first one.
Yeah, probably.
What struck me by the Alpine is how secretly innovative that car looks. It's got a bunch of funny, maybe even very French innovations on it. It's just they've done things slightly differently. However, the team is fairly happy with what they got in Bahrain. Car looks quite responsive. And there are people in the paddock that think they could be best of the rest. And the test didn't look like that. But mind you, last year we left Bahrain thinking, well, Alpine looks like sixth best, maybe even fifth best. So Bahrain can be deceptive. But there were a lot of positive noises coming from the Alpine team.
Yeah, speaking of innovation, like Nelson makes a great point. Like you look at some of the other teams' straight mode and what they were doing with the front and rear wings, and then you take a look at like what Alpine had done with their innovation and what they did with their rear wing, and it's totally different from what anyone else is doing, and nobody knows if that's the right way to go with that innovation or if it's not. They don't know if that's really going to work out, but the team took a risk on that. This is a car I think that they can be confident in building performance out in. This is a car that they've spent a long time on. I think they've done a really good job with it up to this point. Like Nelson had said, having Mercedes power behind you is not going to be a bad thing.
And the gearbox.
And the gearbox as well, the rear end
They
of
have a
this thing
Mercedes
as well.
gearbox?
Yeah.
Yes. So having those things is huge. That is such a big part of this formula. Like the car is, I don't want to say it's an afterthought, but it's not as important as how important like the power unit and things of that nature are going to be. And so if you're Alpine, you have to be pretty confident heading into the season. It's not going to be like 2025 and that car that Pierre Gasly just wanted to get rid of and say goodbye to. He didn't want to see it ever again. This is a totally different direction for this team. And yeah, I think there's a lot of positive noise happening behind the scenes there.
What I'm afraid of is the chaos. When does chaos ensue? Because we know Flavio thrives on chaos, and if a driver makes a few mistakes, and we know Colapinto will always be in the hot seat there, what happens then? What if more people leave the team? What if indeed Horner comes in and brings a bunch of his own people in? How does that change the dynamic? This team is not finished developing itself, rebranding itself. So it just feels like there's so much potential, but to be honest, it has always felt like there's so much potential with this team. And I wonder if this is the year they actually make good on that promise.
I mean, it is the second biggest car manufacturer in the world. You wonder how a Renault-backed team could have had as many issues as they've had, but it seems like chaos has been sort of the name of the game basically since Oscar Piastri was poached, and probably before that too, but it was a little bit more out in the open. And I want to talk to you about the drivers, because there were some rumors about maybe Yuki Tsunoda was the guy that they were going to look at until that Franco Colapinto extension was announced. How is Flavio, and potentially if Horner comes in, how are they going to judge success of these drivers? I mean, I'm assuming from what you're telling me, gentlemen, that this is going to be a team fighting for points.
More so, I think they'll be looking at an occasional podium if things fall their way.
Wow.
I think Nelson's right in that respect. I think also like with Colapinto being on from what I've heard, a bit of a short leash. Like, there's not many mistakes that he can make, right? And yeah, he brings some backing and some sponsorship from a lot of his Argentinian sponsors and things of that nature. It still won't be enough if he's having the same type of a season as he did last year. I think the great thing for Colapinto for this season is he's gotten testing under his belt, which is huge.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so important. Yeah, and it's so important for drivers to get those 2 weeks of testing. I think for Colapinto, getting those 2 weeks of testing, I think that's going to give him a lot of confidence entering this season. I just think for him, it's like Nelson had said, the benchmark is Pierre Gasly, and you got to keep up with Pierre Gasly.
And he was awesome last year. Let's not forget this.
Yeah.
Gasly had a standout season last year. He
did.
had a top 6 season. So
Well,
difficult for Colapinto to keep up with that. But if he can, good for him. And then he's quite secure in this paddock.
Mm-hmm.
So then I want to talk about Gasly then, because obviously he's been sort of an unsung hero for a long time in Formula One. Obviously he has the one win, and he is one of the most likable characters in Formula One. Everybody likes Pierre. But one guy that seems not to like him is Christian Horner, at least the way he drives. Maybe that was a Helmut Marko thing. Maybe it was a Christian Horner thing. Maybe it was both. But when he was at Red Bull, something went wrong. And I'm curious about if Christian is coming in, and we still don't have confirmation of that, does that change Gasly's spot at the team?
I don't think so. I think
Okay.
when you're having success, I mean, the thing with Horner is essentially if the driver is performing, then he's going to be happy, right? If your driver continues to perform, team principals will always be happy about that. They'll never take a driver out of a seat if they are performing. So for Gasly, all he needs to do is just keep doing what he was doing last season. And like Nelson had said, he had a remarkable season in a car that just was not good whatsoever across the board. I think for Christian Horner and the story of him buying out Otro Capital and things like that, it is something that we have heard a lot about over the last few months, and it is something that is percolating in the background. But if Christian does come into Alpine, it's not like he's going to have like a major controlling interest of the team. He's going to have a big percentage, but it won't be like the key percentage that's going to make all the changes and things of that nature.
Yeah,
Okay.
plus Gasly is not the driver he was at Red Bull. He's come along so well. He's learned so much. He's so experienced, and he knows this is his big chance, driving with the Mercedes power unit to get his career back on track. So I think it'll gel well.
Okay. And at what point, if Alpine does not yield the results perhaps that are being suggested here, does Flavio come under some sort of microscope, or is that just not on the cards?
No, dictatorship in this case.
Okay.
I think he's got so much leeway. I think he's preparing the team for sale.
Mhm.
To be honest, I think they've been adding value, and also taking away stuff that might make a sale difficult. If you still had the engine facility,
Mhm.
then a sale would be very difficult. I think they're just getting ready to move on to the next phase. And he's got skin in the game, because I'm pretty sure whatever he sells the team for, he'll get a slight percentage of this. And that's apparently the deal he's made with Renault and Alpine. So I think he's on solid footing there. The thing is, you just never know what you're going to get from him. But he's officially not the team principal, so he won't get the tough questions, nor
Got
will
it.
he answer them anyway.
Right. He
He's
does
gonna
have a
pull,
way of...
he's gonna pull you aside next time he sees you, Nelson.
Just to catch me first.
Okay, so we got enough time for some predictions. Alpine this year, really positive outlook here from you guys. As it's most positive, I think, in the last 3 or 4 years. Where do you have them finishing if the constructors' standings were to be determined today?
6th for me.
6th place. Wow. Okay. Tim,
Well, Nelson's a little more generous than I am. I'm going 7th.
7th for Alpine and Tim. Gentlemen, thank you so much for that preview.